Good evening and good evening, good morning, and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. I'm gonna wake up Raj and we're gonna get this show on the road. Let's go. Good morning.
Good morning. Give me a second here.
Oh, good.
All right. All right.
All right.
Right there. Give me a second. I don't have Who doesn't like Demi Moore? I said, there you go. You can do her biography if you like.
You're trying to prove your acceptance of the nude form.
I don't have to prove it. I don't have to prove
It's
anything.
Fact.
It's like I bought a poster. Well, you notice it's autographed. Right?
Oh, really?
Nah, I got it on auction. It was only $100.
Really?
Yeah, autograph checks out too. It looks like an authentic autograph. So yeah,
You're dedicated Demi Moore fan.
it was part of an auction. I just bought it. No, but yeah, you don't like Demi Moore? No? Okay.
I mean, she's not from my generation of films.
She's exactly from my generation. She's a month older than me. Actually, 4 weeks older than me. So,
Wow.
1962. Born in New Mexico, by the way. Roswell.
Really?
Became a pinup girl at 16. So she's had kind of a screwy life. And her dad was a shit. Her stepdad was a shit. Yeah, she ran away from home.
All right.
She got kicked off her first movie, St. Elmo's Fire. She kicked out right off it because she was doing cocaine. Stuff like that. So she was fucked up, like really fucked up.
Yeah, no kidding.
And then she became a star and met Bruce Willis. He was much older. And married him, had kids, got divorced, married Ashton Kutcher. A lot of people forget. So she was a cougar. married a guy much older than married a guy much younger. So she was doing both, right?
Age
And
is
they got
just a
broke.
number, I guess.
Yeah, so we're all in again. G.I. Jane, A Few Good Men. You know, she was in the Navy for G.I. Jane and for A Few Good Men. She was in Ghost, you know, Striptease, of course, where she was kind of autobiographical a little bit, but doing anything for money at one point in her life, right? Yeah, so
Got your articles ready?
yeah,
Great.
it's only 6:10, but my blank white wall's no longer there. Plus, we can do this for our movie things too, right? Because we're doing the '70s show,
Yeah.
right? Her ex-husband, when she was robbing the cradle.
Yeah. Right, today on Before Coffee. Ukraine may be willing to hold talks on Crimea, suggests Zelensky's advisor.
Report details staggering church sex abuse in Maryland.
Okay.
Yep.
French unions to hold a day of strikes after talks with the Prime Minister fail.
Are robot waiters the future? Some restaurants think so.
Russian girl who drew anti-war pictures has left orphanage, Children's Commissioner says.
Those stories and more lists and stuff in our new news format, which is, if I can't, well, I'm going to try out for one show anyway. The comprehensive news of planet Earth. You get that? You got that on there. Did it hold it up long enough?
Yes, yeah.
I can put it back there on the thing here.
No, you won't see it there. Heads
Always
okay.
be there. Well, it'll be there in the future.
Okay.
The fan's gonna blow it off now. Believe it or not, it got hot. Yeah, my ceiling fans are gone. Yeah. Yeah, so here we go. News. And I get a hug.
No, it's good to be predictable because then you have a show. That's what a show is.
If it's good predictable. If it's good predictable. If it's boring predictable. It's, oh boy.
That's your opinion, I guess. That people do call the news boring. It's not supposed to be entertainment for the most part.
The news is boring, everybody says. Liven it up. Yeah, let's liven it up. Let's do it. Let's do voices.
I can't do voices. Ukraine might be. Maybe you need to do voices though, because and talk slower so people know what you're saying.
I can be Hamlet Council.
Ukraine might be willing to discuss the future of Crimea with Moscow if its forces reach the border of Russian-occupied peninsula. An advisor to Vladimir Zelensky has suggested. In an interview with the Financial Times, Andriy Sybiha, the deputy of the president's office, expresses Kyiv interest in negotiations should Ukrainian forces reach the region's administrative border as a result of an anticipated Ukrainian counteroffensive. Many expect will begin in the coming months. We will succeed in achieving our strategic goals on the battlefield, and when we will be on the administrative border with Crimea, we are ready to open a diplomatic page to discuss the issue, Sybiha asked or said. He added, "It doesn't mean that we exclude the way of liberation of Crimea by our army." It was unclear how serious Sybiha's remarks were or whether they might represent disinformation to lead Moscow to believe Kyiv's coming offensive was focused on the south in the direction of Crimea, following previous successful military deception efforts by Kyiv last year. With Ukraine under continuing Russian pressure in the eastern city of Bakhmut, and Zelensky once again hitting at the potential for withdrawal there, the remarks may also be aimed at bolstering Ukrainian public morale by projecting confidence over a counteroffensive's likelihood for success. The comments by Sybiha, a diplomat, appears to represent a U-turn on Zelensky's previous statements in which he ruled out peace talks until Russian forces left all of Ukraine, including the Russian-occupied Crimea. Crimea has been under Russian occupation since February 2014, was illegally annexed by Moscow the following month after a mock referendum. The comments came amid a continuing military buildup by Kyiv ahead of its anticipated spring offensive, the arrival of Western tanks and armored fighting vehicles. With Ukraine still pushing for supply of extra fighter jets, many analysts say it needs to pursue its wider military ambitions. Zelensky, during the visit to Warsaw, said Poland would help form a coalition of Western powers to supply warplanes to The Battle of Bakhmut, one of the last urban centers yet to fall to Russia in eastern Donetsk province, has proven one of the bloodiest of Russia's invasion. Now it's in its 14th month. Damn, that's a long time. Ukrainian military commanders have stressed the importance of holding it and other cities, inflicting losses on Russian troops to anticipate counteroffensive. Ukrainian military expert Vladislav Zelenzyov says Ukrainian forces will be able to defend the position in the more heavily built-up west of Bakhmut as long as the routes to the west, road of life, they're calling it, getting supplies is in and wounded out remained open. The situation is extremely difficult, but keeping the defense of Bakhmut in place serves one very important matter. It is responsible for exhausting the human and technical capabilities of those units of Russian army attacking the city, Zelenzyov told Oboz Revital news website. The U.S.-based Institute for the Studies of War said mercenaries from Russia's Wagner private militia would try to consolidate control of the city center, push westward through dense urban neighborhoods. Go. Update on the Ukrainian war and Crimea.
So it's getting warmer, and we're going to see more war.
Yep.
More warmer, more war. It's a really poor slogan.
Yeah.
Right? In religious news, report details staggering church sex abuse in Maryland. This is AP News. Lee Skanky, Brian White, and Sarah Brunfield byline. Baltimore. More than 150 Catholic priests and others associated with the Archdiocese of Baltimore sexually abused over 600 children and often escaped accountability, according to a long-awaited state report released Wednesday that revealed the scope of abuse spanning 80 years. Well, 80 years. And are accused church leaders of decades of cover-ups. Well, a lot of them people are dead, I imagine. 80
No
years.
kidding.
The report paints a damning picture of the Archdiocese, which is the oldest Roman Catholic diocese. Well, I'm 80 years old. I remember being blessed. I didn't think it would say anything until now. Come on now. Which is the oldest Roman Catholic diocese in the country and spans much of Maryland. Some parishes, schools, and congregations had more than one abuser at the same time, including St. Mark's Passage in Catonsville, which had 11 abusers, living and working there between 1964 and 2004. Oh, happy days. One deacon admitted to molesting over 100 children. Another priest was allowed to feign hepatitis treatment and make other excuses to avoid facing allegations. The Maryland Attorney General's office released their findings of years-long investigation during Holy Week, considered the most sacred time of the year in Christianity, held ahead of Easter Sunday, where hypocrisy is practiced in full bloom, and said that the number of victims is likely far higher. Well, yeah. The report was redacted to protect confidential grand jury materials, meaning the identities of some accused clergy were removed. Oh, they moved the names of the accused. The staggering pervasiveness of the abuse itself underscores the culpability of the church hierarchy. The report said the sheer number of abusers and victims, the depravity of the abuser's conduct, and the frequency with which known abusers were given the opportunity to continue preying upon children are astonishing. Disclosure of the redacted findings marks a significant development in the ongoing legal battle over the release and adds a growing evidence from across the country of numerous similar relations that have rocked the Catholic Church in recent years. They're not alone. There has been Southern Baptist revelations. We covered this story a couple of months ago. Baltimore Archbishop, that was in Tennessee and the South. The Southern Baptist, Mercer in the South. Baltimore Archbishop William Lowry, in a statement posted online, apologized to the victims, said the report details the reprehensible time in history of the Archdiocese. The reprehensible time in history. Like it's so far ago. And it's difficult most to imagine that such evil acts could have actually occurred. For victims and survivors ever needed to know the hard truth, the evil acts did occur. Also on Wednesday, the state legislature passed a bill to end the statute of limitations on abuse-related civil lawsuits, sending it to Governor Wes Moore, who said he supports it. The Baltimore Archdiocese says it has paid more than $13.2 million for care and compensation for 301 abuse victims since 1980s. And $6.18 million to 105 voluntary settlements. That's $20 million. And
Only
again,
that?
just remind you, they pay no taxes. Maryland Attorney General Anthony Brown, who took office in January, said the investigation shows pervasive, pernicious, and persistent abuse. State investigators began their work in 2019. They reviewed over 100,000 pages of documents dating back to the 1940s and interviewed hundreds of victims and witnesses. Abuse recalled as a life sentences. Victims said the report was a long overdue public reckoning of shameful relations the church has been facing for decades. Jean Hargan Wenner said she was abused in Baltimore as a teen by Joseph A. Maskell, a priest who served as Catholic high school counselor and chaplain. She said she reported abuse to church officials in the early 1990s, when her memories of trauma finally resurfaced about 2 decades after she was repeatedly raped. I expected to do the right thing in 1992, she told reporters. I'm still angry. Maskell abused at least 39 victims, according to the report. He denied the allegations for his death in 2001 and never criminally charged. The Associated Press typically doesn't know the names of the abused victims of abuse, but Wenner has spoken publicly to draw attention to the issue. Ken Ruprecht, who was also experienced abuse as a child, said he was in his late 40s when he pieced together the traumatic memories. He said the realization brought him some relief because it explained the decades of self-destructive behavior and mental health challenges, but also left him overwhelmed with anger and disbelief. Right. So the Catholic Church again has another scandal. This time it was a Baltimore diocese.
Yeah.
We are in a generation of political stupidity where one side accuses the other side of being groomers.
Yeah.
You're groomers. Okay, what is a Southern Baptist and the Catholic Church if they're not groomers for child molesters of the future? Go ahead.
We just get a bad rap. We never did any of that stuff.
Yeah, and we get tax exempt status too while we're molesting children and hiding it and just keeping them in place for, let this guy rape over 100 people, whatever, Didn't happen. Jesus wanted it to happen. Go ahead.
In France, they're still protesting against Macron's pension reforms since March 28th. This is a video. This is footage. March 28th. The first meeting since the pension changes were presented in January. It was over in an hour. Unions emerged calling for more protests. Hundreds of thousands of people across France are expected to protest on Thursday against Emmanuel Macron's rise in the minimum pension age, 2 to 64, after talks between the trade unions and the Prime Minister failed to keep pensions. France will face another day of strikes affecting transport, schools, and refineries, and anger over government's use of executive order to push through the pension changes without a parliamentary vote last month. Trade union leaders met the Prime Minister, Elizabeth Borne, on Wednesday, warning that they would walk out of talks if she refused to discuss scrapping the raising of the minimum eligible age for retirement age to 64. It was the first meeting between both sides since the government presented the controversial pension changes in January. The meeting lasted about an hour, but unions emerged angry and called for more protests. Cyril Charbonnier, I'm speaking French, speaking on behalf of France's 8 main unions, said, "We again told the Prime Minister that the only democratic outcome would be the text withdrawal." The Prime Minister replied that she wished to maintain the text, a serious decision. Sophie Binet, the new leader of the left-wing CGT trade union, called for more protests and strikes. "We have to continue mobilizing until the end, until the government understands there is no way out other than withdrawing this reform," she said. "We can't move on to anything else until the reform is repealed." Borne said the pension changes were necessary and would go ahead. "I told them again that I am convinced of the need for a reform," she said. A giant banner with the words, 64, it's no, was displayed by trade unionists, demonstrators at the top of the Arc de Triomphe in Paris soon after the meeting broke up. They removed it after police arrived. Macron is facing the biggest challenge of his second term as president over his controversial changes to the pension system, raising the minimum age from 62 to 64 and accelerating an increase in number of years required to qualify for a full pension. Trade unions have been leading coordinated on-off strikes since January. Polls have shown 2/3 of the French public oppose the government's changes. Critics say the pension reforms isn't fair for workers in low-income or difficult manual jobs who start their careers early, as well as women who have paused to raise children. The government has argued that the changes are necessary to prevent pension systems from falling into deficit. France has the lowest qualifying age for a state pension among the main European economies and spends a significant amount of supporting the system. The active working population pay high payroll tax charges, see fair pensions as the bedrock of how society should work. Weekly protests since January have largely been peaceful, but when the government used an executive order to bypass a parliament vote that feared losing on 16 March, there were clashes between protesters and police. "Oh no, they're gonna vote against us. Let's just pass it into law anyways." France's Constitutional Council will give its final say on the pension on 14th of April, last step before the changes are signed into law. While Laurent Berger, head of the moderate CFDT trade union, warned of a serious democratic crisis in France, Macron was on a visit to China. where his entourage denied any democratic crisis at home, saying the pension changes had been central to Macron's election manifesto and he was voted in based on that manifesto. Protesters at Paris demonstration in recent weeks have said that a significant number of people on the left voted for centrist Macron last spring in order to keep out far-right Marine Le Pen, not in support of the manifesto, and he must therefore adapt his policy. Yeah, no kidding. A centrist? I'm a centrist. That means you're not as bad as the other guy. That's all that means.
That means you can't please anybody. Because you're trying to please yeah.
Stop acting like your manifesto is why you got voted
I'm not
in.
with these guys.
Realize you've lost. You've lost. The people do not support your decision.
Yeah, it's like negotiating against yourself all the time. That's what being a centrist is. Have a damn opinion. You know?
Yeah.
Don't try to please these guys. They can't please them. They hate you.
You've already just disappointed them. It's over.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the politics is a lot of times, though. Working with people you hate, that you actually despise. That's the tough way. Oh, are we done with the story, or are you still? Next story?
Yep, next story.
All right, then. One I haven't thoroughly vetted, so this will be fun reading it. Are robot waiters the future? Some restaurants think so. This is from Deanne Durbin of AP News. So it's going to be like a insight type story more than a news type story. Sorry for the sniffles. You may have already seen them in restaurants. Waste time machines that can greet guests, lead them to their tables, deliver food and drinks, and ferry dishes to the kitchen. Some have cat-like faces, even purr when you scratch their heads. But are robot waiters the future? It's a question that restaurant industry is increasingly trying to answer. Many think robot waiters are the solution to the industry's labor shortages. Sales of them have been growing rapidly in recent years, with tens of thousands now gliding through dining rooms worldwide. Would you like a refill on your drink? There is no doubt in my mind. I can be a robot waiter. There is no doubt in my mind that this is where the world is going, as Dennis Reynolds, Dean of the Hilton College of Global Hospitality Leadership at the University of Houston. The school's restaurant began using the robot in December, and Reynolds says it eased the workload for human staff and made service more efficient. Of course he's saying that. He's saving money by not paying somebody. But others say robot waiters are much more than a gimmick. They have a long way to go before they can replace humans. They can't take orders. Many restaurants have steps, outdoor patios, and other physical challenges they can't adapt to. That's why you make them little tiny drones. And restaurants are pretty chaotic. You know, they can just buzz around everybody. Just go. The one takes your order and the other one brings it. You know what I mean? Restaurants are pretty chaotic places, so it's very hard to insert automation in a way that's really productive. Yeah, I just want to eat. I don't need all this crap. Still, the robots are proliferating. Redwood City, California-based Bear Robotics induces its Servi robot in 2020. Expects to have 10,000 deployed by the end of the year in 44 U.S. states and overseas. Oh my God, they're taking over. Shenzhen, China-based Pudu Robotics, which was founded in 2016, has deployed more than 56,000 robots worldwide. Every restaurant chain is looking for as much automation as possible. People are going to see these everywhere in the next year or two. There's something we can look forward to. Li Jai was having trouble finding staff for Noodletopia in his Madison Heights, Michigan restaurant in the summer of 2021. So he bought a Bellabot from Pudu Robotics. The robot was so successful he added two more. Now one robot leads diners to their seats while another delivers bowls of steaming noodles to their tables and dumps it directly in their laps. No, I'm just kidding. Employees pile dishes onto a third robot to shuttle back to the kitchen. And then everybody takes a smoke break. Now Zai only needs... I added that part. Now, Zai only needs 3 people to do the same volume of business that 5 or 6 used to handle, and they save him money. A robot costs $15,000, he said, but a person costs $5,000 to $6,000 per month. Zai said robots give him give human servers more time to mingle with customers, which increases tips, and customers often post videos of robots on social media that entice others to visit. So, are we really saving labor if you're always having servers anyway? I'm confused. You're still having human servers. Are we saving money? Interactions with human, I guess it's just fewer bus boys, I guess. Interactions with human servers can vary. Betsy Jiren Reynosa works for Bellabot in the sushi factory in West Melbourne, Florida, said the robot can be a pain. You can't really tell it to move or anything, she said. She also had customers who didn't want to interact with it, but overall the robot is a plus, she said. It saves her trips back and forth to the kitchen and gives her more time with customers. Alright, I got you. Labor shortage accelerated the adoption of robots globally. LeClaire said in the U.S., the restaurant industry employed 50 million people at the end of last year, but that was still 400,000 fewer than before the pandemic, according to the National Restaurant Association. In a recent survey, 62% of restaurant operators told the association they don't have enough employees to meet the customer demand.
Yeah, because you don't want to pay them.
Yeah, so this is going to be actually, you can't afford to hire workers. You make You make a one-time payment as long as the robot doesn't break down. It comes with a maintenance plan. You're, healthcare, right?
Yeah.
You got electricity costs. You got to keep the battery charged. But again, you got to keep your employees battery charged too, right?
Yeah, I went to a Korean barbecue place in Rotterdam. They had a little robot server who just pulled it down, stopped at the right aisle, then you just put your stuff in the tray. Of course, the problem with that is that you can just steal people's food if you want to.
Yeah.
Now, if there's multiple
just walk up to
on
the
one tray, you can be like, "Oh, that's nice. They got a ribeye. I'll take that." Yeah,
I just walk out.
Nice ribeye. I only ordered the baked potato.
Robot's like, "Hey, wait. Hey, wait."
Well, actually, they've done really good with AI voices. So robots sound a lot more. Do you not know about Vocaloid?
Oh, I know. Everything's advancing.
Have you heard of Vocaloid?
But our listeners would like to hear about it.
Vocaloid? You know what Vocaloid is?
Continue.
It's basically computer-generated music singing.
Ah.
Famously Japanese. I think a Japanese person came up with it. Yeah.
And of course,
it's
we
been
welcome.
Out since like 2010, I think, is when it started. Vocaloids. So they can really make computer noises sound like human voice these days.
In the spirit of Kent Brockman from The Simpsons, we welcome our animated overlords.
All right.
Your story.
My next story. Update on the Russian girl drew anti-pictures and her father got arrested in Russia.
Ooh.
And the announcement that the child has left the orphanage comes before the court ruling on whether to strip the father of Maria Moskalovyoya of parental rights for his criticism of the Ukraine war. Your child is learning different propaganda. We can't allow that. Only our propaganda is allowed. A Russian girl sent to an orphanage after drawing an anti-war sketch at school has been taken from the facility by her mother, the Kremlin's Children's Rights Commissioner has said. The Kremlin's Children's Rights Commissioner, Maria Lvoya-Bolovya, said that she had met the girl's mother, who had long been separated from her husband and child. The girl had previously refused to live with her mother, but changed her mind, so the mother took her home. Yeah, I'm sure the orphanage was a great place, and she wanted to stay there above anything else. In a case that drew international outrage, the father of 13-year-old Maria was convicted of discrediting the Russian military and handed a 2-year prison term, and his daughter was sent to the orphanage. Father, Alexei, fled house arrest just before his sentencing hearing last week in the town of Yefremov, south of Moscow. He was detained in Belarus 2 days later. His whereabouts are unclear, but a court in the Russian town of Yefremov is set to consider on Thursday a request by the prosecutors to strip him of his parental rights. Moskalyov 54, was charged over social media posts criticizing the war in Ukraine under a law adopted days after Russian troops invaded the neighboring country in February 2022. He rejected the accusations. According to his lawyer and supporters, Moskolyov's trouble began after his daughter drew a picture of a Yefremov School number 9 that depicted missiles flying over a Russian flag at a woman and child. The drawing also featured the words, "No to war and glory to Ukraine." The school called police. The girl was questioned, and Moskolyov was fined and eventually prosecuted and convicted over his social media posts. The case underscored the scope of a Kremlin crackdown on dissent that has relentlessly targeted anyone who dared to criticize the war. Memorial, one of Russia's oldest and most prominent rights groups and winner of the 2022 Nobel Peace Prize, has declared Moskolyov a political prisoner. The International Criminal Court is seeking to arrest Volodya Belova, along with Russian President Vladimir Putin, for war crimes for allegedly deporting children from Ukraine. He spoke to a UN meeting on Wednesday to argue that the children were moved for their safety, that Moscow was working with international organizations to return them to their families. Britain blocked the UN webcast of the Security Council meeting, and her appearance sparked a walkout by diplomats from the US, Britain, Albania, and Malta. Right. That's a short story about that. On to your next coverage.
Okay, well, students across America take part in orchestrated walkout calling for gun reform. So we have two related stories according to that. They're short. The renewed outcry over guns and mass school shootings are stemming from protests in the wake of deadly shootings in Nashville. This is a story out of Houston, Channel 11, but it's about nationwide. Students across the country participated in walkout Wednesday to protest gun violence and were calling on inaction from politicians meeting gun reform. The demonstrations came on the heels of large protests in Nashville, following a school shooting that claimed the lives of 3 9-year-old children and 3 adults. In a wake of mounting mass shootings at schools, they always keep to say they're mounting. They're just always happening. I don't know if they're mounting. Like there's a big bunch of them coming for us. Oh, the school shootings are coming for us. They're mounting. That's a weird use of the language. I'm just saying. It's like the sports guys writing it. There will be things like we'll go on lockdown and be like, great. Are we getting shot again? Like this is going to happen again? Megan Trutchley said. Trutchley's a Sugar Land High School senior and students demand action volunteer. The renewed outcry over guns and mass shootings is stemming from protests at the Tennessee state capitol. For days, the young people have asked state legislators to respond to recent school shootings in just more than just a few words. Denying what that type of situation when our children are bleeding in schools is inexcusable. That's not something that we can sit back and do nothing. Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo also highlighted the effects of gun violence on youth. In 2021, 50 children in Harris County died because of gun violence. That's the size of 2 elementary school classrooms, Hidalgo said. Between 2016 and 2021, firearm-related deaths increased among youth in Harris County by 37%. We're doing everything we can, but we can't control the lax laws and lack of action on the state level. Students who walked out demanding that Texas lawmakers take action. We are here to let ourselves be heard in a way that we haven't heard before, specifically by legislators that continue to fail again and again. The students want action on red flag laws, background checks, a raise the minimum age to purchase AR-15 rifles to 21. That's the simplest little thing, and the gun nuts won't even agree to that. Just amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, and more gun nut fascism news. Tennessee House poised to expel 3 Democrats over gun control protest. This is from the New York Times, written by Emily Cochrane. In Nashville, as teenagers and demonstrators flooded the Tennessee state legislature last week to call for lawmakers to toughen access to guns for deadly shooting in Christian school, 3 Democrats are headed to the well of the House chamber, holding hand-drawn sign calling to protect our kids and not guns. Speaking through a megaphone, State Representative Justin Jones, Justin J. Pearson, and Gloria Johnson led chants that called their colleagues to pass stricter gun laws, forcing legislature legislative proceedings to temporary halt. Now, in what would be an extraordinary act of retribution, for the protest, fascists and Republican. I'm sorry, I get the words mixed up. Fascists, Republicans, same thing. Are opposed to vote on Thursday to oust the Democrats in the General Assembly. I mean, really, they don't have any power.
Yeah.
I mean, so ousting them is symbolic more than anything else. And carry the first partisan expulsion in the state's modern history. The House of Representatives have only twice since the Civil War expelled a member. Once in 1980 after a sitting lawmaker was convicted of soliciting a bribe, and again in 2016 after House Majority Whip faced allegations of sexual misconduct while in office. My guitar just moved. Alright, you're haunted. Alright, maybe it's a ghost of Woody Guthrie or something. Despite the absence of... Come on, Woody, write me a song. Despite the absence of any criminal charges or investigation, Republicans argue that the expulsions are warranted because the protests flooded the rules of procedure into court. Oh, okay. With the House Speaker going as far to invoke the violence of the 2020... invoke the violence of the January 6, 2021 riot at the U.S. Capitol. I'm sure this guy is really invoking it, and he probably supported the riot in 2021. I guarantee he supported it. Come on, we really won the election, even though we lost resoundingly. Idiots. And the Republicans holding a supermajority that provides the necessary 2/3 majority for expulsions. Democrats have little resources to stop the vote. Yeah, exactly. Just let them do it. Just let them be the freaking fascist hypocrites they always were. The three lawmakers who represent districts in the state's three largest cities have only lost ID access to the state capitol and been stripped of any committee assignments they had. Thursday's vote comes as a Republican-dominated legislature remained largely unmoved by thousands of protesters calling for tighter gun laws. They're not even calling for tighter. Did you hear what I was asking? They were asking for to make it 21 the age you can buy a AR-15. Woo! Well, that's radical. Let's raise the age where you can buy a killing machine.
They're literally not taking into account that where do the people get their guns from? Their parents usually, who are definitely way above 21. So like.
Well, the point being, when you're 18, you can't buy alcohol, you can't buy cigarettes, you can't buy weed. In states where it's legal, but hey, you can buy an AR-15. In fact, you can buy 2. You can buy 5. So one day you're 17, never thought about buying a gun, and one day you're 18 and go, I can buy a gun? Oh shit, let me go. And then you go, somebody pissed me off, I'll go shoot him. Because you're 18, you're stupid. You haven't figured out how to, channel your energies yet. They should raise it to
25 then.
They should raise it to banning them completely, like they used to be. AR-15s are a killing machine. The rounds they put in those things, the exit wound as big as a volleyball, right?
Yeah.
The entrance wound's this little tiny hole. The exit wound is a volleyball. That's what happens to a person from one of those bullets. They should just show the pictures of these kids. They should. Here's what happens to a kid. That used to be a kid there. Believe it or not, that was a kid at one time.
Yeah, what is
1 second later?
Didn't they famously say in the Uvalde shooting that one kid couldn't be like recognized except for the shoes that she was wearing? That's how disfigured she was. That they're like, oh, that's my daughter's shoe. Okay.
Well, that's most reprehensible. We say, who's going to stop him but a good guy with a gun? Well, all the cops are just standing out in the hallway listening to it happen. A bunch of good guys with a gun doing nothing. Because they're terrified of the fucking killing machines. Rightfully so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways. Is that the end of the article?
That's it, man. That's the end of my outrage. I'll do this every day the rest of my life. It's like, you can just ban magazines over 10 rounds. Ban the manufacture and sale, right? That way, these shitballs can only shoot 10 people, and they had to reload. Or change guns or something. Alright, go ahead.
Okay. In culture news. A wordless death, a dazzling new talent, and a 50-day squat. Is Athens the hotbed of European theater? 30 directors from all over Europe converge on Greece for a showcase in its fizzling new talent that even include a play about the Nazis by Tony Kushner. What did they learn on this 5-day odyssey? How do we cope with the loss of a loved one? Do the rituals of mourning help? Is there any prospect of an afterlife? These questions were buzzing in my brain after seeing a wordless 70-minute show. Goodbye, Lindita, in a converted factory in Athens. Conceived and directed by Mario Bonucci, 24-year-old son of Albanian immigrants, production was part of a 5-day showcase organized by the National Theatre of Greece. I felt I was witnessing the emergence of an exciting new talent. So I wanted to see one play while I was in Greece. Why didn't I just push you guys harder to see a play with me in Greece?
I would have gone.
Yeah, I know, but we just didn't. I don't push hard enough for the things I want.
Greece is still there.
It's still there.
Good. Oh, was that it?
If Athenian work does travel, it will fulfill the showcase's basic aim. As Yanis Moskos, the artistic director of the National Theatre, told me, we lack visibility abroad. To rectify that, the National arranged a program of 7 productions spread over their 2 theaters. But the whole project was endangered by what is known locally as the squat. On 5th of February, the National Theatre was occupied by more than 200 drama students. And a few days later, its second house, the Rex, was similarly taken over. The cause was a government edict that would, in effect, devalue the degrees issued by the School of Theatre, Dance and Cinema, and Music and reduce them to the level of high school diplomas, a decision that caused widespread outrage. So what, you studied art and studied the art of acting? You're basically just a high school student. You don't have a brain. You can't think.
Here's an AR-15.
The squat, says Moskos, was a symbolic gesture, but one which we at the National supported. He also didn't do anything brutal like calling in the police. But, although the squat lasted 50 days and only ended because of the hope of forthcoming election will bring change, it inevitably affected our program. Some showed had to close, others were delayed, and we had to rehearse in rented spaces. Moskos ruefully admits that at the end of the squat, he was starting to lose patience. But he is a genial figure who has broken conventions in many ways. He is the first artistic director of National to be chosen by a committee of theater rather than the government minister. He is the first director to assign a different policy to 5 stages in the National 2 houses. He also told me he is the first director in Greek theater to come out as gay, which is crazy. You know what to say about... For all his notable firsts, he still has a battle with an age-old problem confronting the National. Its subsidy has remained stubbornly at $6 million for most of the last decade. Moskos admits that he will have to spend much of the 18 months remaining on his contract fundraising. He plans to stage Matthew Lopez's The Inheritance, and during my stay I saw his production, surtitled in English like everything I watched, of Tony Kushner's A Bright Room Called Day. Premiering in 1987, it has long been overshadowed by Angels in America, but this revival makes a good case for it. You don't have to read about the plot of the play. Just go see the play, okay? They're recommending to see that play.
This is comprehensive news of Earth, of planet Earth, so...
There's clearly a fascination in Athenian theater with depravity. Visitors to the National Theatre Showcase were invited to see productions at Onassis Stegi, a vast, lavishly endowed art center with a bias towards innovation. I hurried there to catch a new version of Crime and Punishment. It was directed and co-adapted by Vasilis Biskikis, and on previous visit, I had been hugely impressed by his Of Mice and Men. Those are all sad things. Mm-hmm. That was a stage on a minimal budget in an old machine shop. I came away from Athens struck by the sheer quantity of theater available. This week alone, there were 284 shows on offer, as well as by quality of the acting, the capacity of the National Theatre to surmount the recent crisis. But as Moskos reminded me, there is still much work to be done. The National urgently needs more money, more new writing, and not least, more female directors. Okay, I'll go there right now.
Go on, do it.
I don't know Greek though. One of its biggest recent hits, a stage version of Charlie Chaplin's City Lights, was the work of a woman, Amalia Bennett, who happens to be a long-term British expat. National Theatre, Moscow admits, is traditionally conservative, but he is keen to make it a home not for the great classes, but for modern drama unfamiliar to Greek audiences, radical experiments. All I can say is that if he can find more work at the caliber of Banushi's Goodbye, Lindita stands to fare a chance of success.
All right.
So,
I really regret not going to a play too.
yeah, we have to go again. Oh darn, we have to go to Athens.
Yeah, we're part of our big Mediterranean tour at some point. All right, so this day in history, April 6th. In 1199, Richard I Lionheart was mortally wounded in battle at Chalice in the Duchy of Aquitaine. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was formed by the American prophet Joseph Smith in Fayette, New York, at this day in 1830. In 1862, April 6th, Union troops clashed with Confederates in the southwestern Tennessee in the Battle of Shiloh in the American Civil War. In Japan in 1868, the Japanese Emperor Meiji issued a charter oath which served to modernize the country during the Meiji, maybe you know how to pronounce it, Meiji Restoration. In 1909, explorer Robert Edwin Peary led the first expedition to the North Pole. 1917, the United States declared war on Germany and proceeded to kick their butts. Sorry. No, I mean, we did win the war. I mean, it was stalemate until then. The Tony Awards were presented for the first time. Notable winners included Ingrid Bergman, playwright Arthur Miller, and director Ezra Elia Kazan in 1947, the first Tony Awards. In 1973, Ron Blomberg became the first designated hitter in Major League Baseball history. The Swedish group ABBA in 1974 captured the top.
Someday after.
Oh, well, I was about to break into a different song. They captured the top prize Eurovision contest in 1974 with their song Waterloo. 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 I don't know any of the lyrics. I just know the songs. Right? I know. Dancing Queen. That's all I know, man. It's like it was always played on the radio. So, 1980, American company 3M began selling Post-it notes in U.S. stores. So happy birthday to the Post-it note. You are now 43 years old. 1992, Russian-born, a sad day, very sad day, Russian-born American author and biochemist Isaac Asimov, a highly successful prolific writer, died at the age of 72. It was in 1992. Not a whole lot. Mickey Rooney, famous for being a short actor who started as a child and stayed the same size, so he was able to play a teenage boy away until his 40s. Died at the age of 93. Yeah, he also played the Japanese guy. Breakfast at Tiffany's. Right. The Olympics were revived. The modern Olympics. In a tradition. So the modern Olympics were open for the first day. They opened actually in spring. That's weird. The first modern games opened on Athens in this day in 1896. So they played the Olympics starting in April. So the weather must be good in Greece right now, right? Yeah, that's right. We were there in November. It was great. I don't even remember it being. Do you remember the weather? I don't remember it.
I remember that I brought a jacket and I wore it twice.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's like Southern California. I remember it's exactly like, it even looks like Southern California. All right, man. That's about it. That's the news and what happened today on April 6th. It's Merle Haggard's birthday, 1937, and other people I don't know. So, if I'm going to mispronounce your names today, more right?
All right, well, that's been Allison here from Europe, talking about how all that previous news is still happening, okay? None of that stuff has stopped. So keep your eyes on that. I don't know, protest on Twitter or something. Let people know.
A new slogan we're trying out here.
The camera.
I see it as a mirror, so I hope you see it right.
Yeah, I see it
But,
correctly.
okay. That's our new slogan for April 6th, 2023. 2023.
I don't know. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.
I am your news bot. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons. And follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.